Hello, my name is Diego from the Hit Music Studio, and in this video, I would love to share some important tips, our best tips to have a successful live performance. And one of the things that we really like about these tips is to get you guys to be able to prepare for something that it's upcoming. We have had multiple comments in a couple of videos that we have done, especially one video that talks about using a microphone, and several people have said like, oh my god, this is so cool, thank you so much, because I was getting ready to perform for the first time, and these tips truly have helped me when it comes to holding a microphone. So I wanted to do more of a general how to prepare for a performance. I can tell you I've been doing music for a long time, and I have been incredibly just amazed that music has never failed me, in that I have prepared myself enough for an opportunity, a performance or something, and I have always been able to like almost push through with a couple of very specific ideas and tips, and at the same time a lot of work. I have never been disappointed when I have put what I felt was like the appropriate amount of work to get the performance to be successful. But at the same time, I think it definitely is not an overnight thing. So definitely want to share these tips. Hopefully you guys can get some value out of it. At the same time, keep in mind that we're making this content, and we do want to make more content, as we have seen some growth in recently, that you guys like, that you would like to see. So let me know in the comments topics, songs that you would like to learn, specifics about. Maybe there's a lot of things that we can do. We have two music schools here in South Florida with two locations with different, multiple teachers, and it's a fairly big operation, and we do multiple instruments. But I would like to almost continue to create content in here that we can share with our students that are taking lessons at our locations in South Florida, and at the same time, anyone out there that would like to get into the process of learning an instrument. I do believe that anyone can learn, and I think this is why we try to share this content. So let's go to tip number one. Tip number one, as it says there, is the gear and setup. And what we mean by this is to make sure that you can recreate to the best of your abilities what would be the gear that you are going to be using, what is going to be the setup. I was even talking to one of our teachers, and she was mentioning, like, if you're going to wear heels and sing the song with heels on. If you're going to be using a specific guitar, a specific piano, even a specific, let's say, guitar pick, make sure that you are getting to use that before the performance. The last thing that you want when you perform for the first time is to have elements that you have never done. Now, that can be challenging if, let's say, if you're singing and you're singing with a microphone. If you're playing an instrument and you're playing in a big place that the instrument is amplified, and all of a sudden you're playing 6 times louder than you will normally play at your house. But it's important to try to almost think like, okay, what conditions am I going to be on? For example, one thing that has happened to me before is like, if you're outside in this wind, if you need to read the sheet music, make sure that you prepare and you try to recreate the conditions. And I can tell you that one of the things that happens to me, which I wanted to share with you guys, I don't normally regularly anymore get nervous before a performance. It's interesting because when I do, I know that there are some elements going on that are a little bit like abnormal. And I'll tell you, the last time that I was really, really pretty scared was right before COVID. I did a performance. I'm from Costa Rica. I did a performance with an artist that I traveled with. We went to Costa Rica to perform. And the day before, we were having dinner, and I knew I wanted to do a good job. My family was coming over to see me perform. They were like, I knew there was going to be press because the person that I traveled with, he's fairly, well known across Latin America. But the day before having dinner, he said, "Oh, by the way, we're going to record the show tomorrow with 4 cameras, and for a TV station down there that is going to do like an edit of the show, and then like be able to like use it for their own promotion, and of course for the promotion of the artist." And when he said that, I really felt like, oh, I guess I wasn't really expecting the added pressure of having it be documented that way. And one interesting thing that happened to me at that show, which has happened to me before, is I had, of the 4 cameras, 1 camera was on me at all times. So I had literally a person standing next to me the whole show. This show is a 2.5-hour show, and he will be doing close-ups, and he will be really close to me at some times. And it's interesting because that's an added element to what's going on. So needless to say, the performance went out really good. I did some of the tips that I'm sharing with you guys, but I think it's interesting because I think we all get nervous. And a person that works on TV told me, because I asked her, like, how do you withstand being live on TV, on national TV every day? And she said, like, I have equated the fact that I get nervous to making it almost making a point of using that energy, because I know that energy means that I care. That energy is there because I know I want to do good. And instead of having that energy derail me, I use that energy to know that I care and try to get to do a good job. So let's go to tip number 2. And this has really helped me. It has helped me with the artists that I travel with. Identify the, sorry, I put the first one again. So number 2, identify the hard parts of a song, of your performance. Let's say you're singing 3 songs, and let's say out of the 3 songs you have a lot of trouble with the second verse of the third song. It's very important to identify that and put a lot more energy to the parts that you're having trouble. One of the things that I see with musicians, people that are starting out, is they try to do everything the same. Hard parts need a lot more energy, and I can tell you, the fastest that you identify something that is hard for you, the better. Because I have even done this professionally. I have had shows in which I'm learning, let's say, 22 songs. I listen to the 20 songs very quickly and identify the hardest. And maybe, let's say, the hardest are 3. So out of the 3, I really practice, make sure that I understand what it is. If I need to do sheet music for it, I do it. But the ones that are easy, sometimes I don't even spend too much time on it, because I know by, that's an easy song. I can probably, like, listen to it on the way to the rehearsal and be able to, like, play it. Now, I do recommend to make sure that you have enough experience to understand what are the hard parts. Hopefully you even have a teacher that can tell you, oh, the song that you're playing, the hardest lick in the guitar is this one. So just kind of like be careful, put enough energy. So songs are not, fair, in the sense that you may have a song as a guitar player that is way harder for you than for anyone else. Maybe the intro is very hard. Maybe there's a guitar solo, but that means that you just have to put more energy into it. And I think that's a very important tip. Now, let's talk about tip number 3. So tip number 3 is to do one-shot practice. And one of the things that I see in a lot of students, and let me see if I can give you a quick close-up. A lot of students start the song and they almost start practicing, but they have this, what I call, false start. So they go, and they almost, let's say, start something 2 or 3 times in a row. Definitely get rid of that habit. Make sure that you, before a performance, get to do the whole thing. You messed up, you forgot the lyrics, grab the next part of the lyrics, grab the next chorus. Don't stop the song. Now, this is to be done right before a performance when you are in the end process, but make sure that you do it, because a lot of people tend to over practice the beginning and under practice the other sections of a song. And we're going to cover that in the next tip. But it's very important to make sure that you get into the habit of, like, what wasn't correct, water under the bridge. I can even tell you this because I was watching the Winter Olympics recently, and I felt like when the figure skaters, when they lose their balance and fall, you can tell that their mind has to be in the right place to not fall again. So it's almost like the one mistake that you make, which I think happens to all of us, you in your mind are almost like going, oh my God, that was so bad, I shouldn't have done it. And that makes you have another mistake in a part that is coming up. So it's very important as a musician to learn how to water under the bridge, move on to the next section. And even important, because I have some students that almost, like, I felt, don't narrate your mistakes to the crowd. You don't want to be playing something like, oh my God, you don't want to say something, make a facial expression that people are going to be like, oh, what happened? Sometimes people don't know. Sometimes people don't really perceive it as a mistake. So it's important for you to not be making a bigger deal out of something that happened. I think there will be other times, hopefully with the help of your teacher, to correct, improve, move on to the other things. So let's go to this tip. This tip, we actually made a specific video on it. It's tip number 4. Practicing in sections. And I think this is very, very important. And I linked the video that we have on this on the description of this live stream, so you guys can click on it. It's called How to Practice Piano Efficiently. It has to do with classical music, but it applies to anything. So in a piece, that has 4 different lines, and we're talking about something simple, it's good to take the sections and start in backwards. So let's say we have 4 lines. You're going to do line 4 until that you can play without mistakes and preferably by memory. Then you're going to do line 3 and play it without mistakes and by memory. So you don't go to line 1 until you have done line 4 enough times that line 4 is kind of like completely cooked, done. It's gonna sound perfect. So this process of going in sections allows you to almost two things. I think over practice parts, like almost regulate the amount of practice, because sometimes people over practice the beginning, so they don't get to the end that much. If you start doing it in sections, and one of the sections is the ending, you're gonna make sure that you're putting enough energy on the ending to make sure that it can withstand some pressure. And at the same time, I think practicing in sections makes you able to have your mind start anywhere. So if you start a song and you say, okay, I'm a singer, okay, I'm going to start from the bridge right now. Bridge. Okay, I'm going to start again from the bridge. Okay, the next time I'm going to start from the second verse. It allows you, when something happens in a performance, your mind is more able to like know the little sections and be like, oh, verse, and kind of like catch on instead of like almost getting derailed and, oh, can we please stop the song and start again because I messed up. So now lastly, and I think this is important, this is a very common thing professionally, but it's definitely something that you want to try to take advantage, something that I need to work on with the artist that I travel with, because his repertoire is very, very extensive. Memorize music. Memorizing, I think, does a very cool thing to your ability to perform. I think, to me, to my ability to have fun. One thing that I equated is to, let's say when you have a computer, you have 25 different windows open and you have different programs open. You can see the computer having almost like a hard time keeping up, and you click on something else and the computer is almost like taking a second to be able to respond. I think the same thing happens when you have to read music and you don't know it by memory and you're trying to look at the music, look down on your fingers. I think it's a process that is almost more demanding on your CPU of your brain. So when you memorize things, I think it almost liberates part of your energy, so you can devote it completely into the performance and not having to look at the lyrics or looking at the sheet music and almost get that fear of like, oh, am I gonna get lost on where I am on the lyrics? So there is a chance, if your memory fails, to have almost one of those moments that you cannot tell, where was the next section or whatever. But I do think that as a general rule, playing by memory is going to bring you more reward than the risks. One thing that you can do, and I try to do this with my students, is like put the sheet music up, but don't look at it. So try to do it by memory. And the sheet music can be a little bit of a, lifesaver type of situation in which you can just grab onto that if things kind of like got a little complicated, but try to get it by memory. So hopefully this 5 tips are going to be something that will help any of you if you are performing something in the near future. I definitely want to encourage you, if you are an adult. I think it's so cool to see so much more adults pursuing music themselves. And I think if you are an adult, consider performing. Now, you don't necessarily have to go to like your local, let's say, coffee shop and do a 2-hour set, but consider performing for your family when there's people over. When you have events nowadays with phones, you can call someone and sing a song, play a song on guitar for them. I think it's important to have that almost pressure to perform, because it's a big component of how you're going to move forward. And let me close up by saying that we have a new program that is going to be called the Hit Piano Club. And this is going to be a membership style course slash a couple of other things, so adults can learn how to play piano at their own pace in the comfort of their homes, and with a little bit of some resources for when it comes to feedback, and at the same time access to our library of lessons, which is not what we put on YouTube. These are private lessons. So we definitely want to share that as an option, because we believe that a lot of people are interested in learning how to do music. And for us, it's very, very cool to be able to share that process, share our experience out of almost 14-15 years of teaching here in Pembroke Pines and in West Davie, and almost bringing a little bit of that, a lot of the obstacles that we see people like struggle with. We want to try to fix that for you, so when you're learning how to play an instrument as an adult, you can go a little bit easier, have a little bit more fun. If you would like more information about what we do, check our main website, thehitmusicstudio.com. We want to thank you for watching. Definitely check you guys on the next one. Definitely leave me a comment if there's any topics that you would like to see us cover. We're going to continue to even bring some instructors to this live session, so we can talk about general topics that hopefully can benefit you in your pursuit of music. We'll see you guys on the next one. Take care.